Hi, let me welcome you again to this YouTube channel and to this time in the Word together. You know, we're living in a time when fear is everywhere, and the people are so afraid, and their speech is what gives it away. Did you know that in the Bible, the words "do not fear" or "fear not" appears 365 times? Someone said actually 366. That's for the extra year of leap year. But 365 times, that's one for every day, God says, don't fear. But it is so easy to fear, especially when people are speaking negativity all around us and the worst case scenarios. And, you know, we have circumstances that happen maybe that we haven't had before, and it is very scary. And we don't have assurance because we maybe have not been that way before. So anyway, I want you to know that you are not alone if you've had to deal with those emotions, but God says you don't have to be alone either. And He says you don't have to be controlled by those emotions because He wants to give us confidence and assurance. There's a psalm. In fact, in the Psalms, kind of in the center of your Bible, most of them written by King David of Israel over 1,000 years before Christ came, speak to every circumstance that we will ever find ourselves. You want to find calamity, it's there. You want to find pestilence, it's there. You want to find plagues, He mentions it. Wants to find your life is being, you're encountering opposition or people being unfair or mistreating you. David went through all of that, and he poured out his heart to God and asking God to help him in all those situations. Well, here's one. I want to read a couple of verses and just encourage us. No matter what you're going through, if you're going through a crisis just like the one we had with the viruses, whether it's a flu virus or the West Nile virus or the COVID-19 virus, you know, we get fearful. Here's what God says. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High, that's verse 1, Psalm 91, verse 1. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge, my fortress, my God. In Him I will trust. You know, I live in Central Florida, and it's not all palm trees. A lot of people think all we have is palm trees. That's probably more Miami. But we have lots of oak trees, and huge oak trees that cast a great shadow. And sometimes, well, no, regularly when you're parking, you always try to find a spot that's under an oak tree. And now you're going to get some stuff on your car, but at least it's not going to get to be 200 degrees inside. So, but that image, being under an oak tree and being covered by that expanse of branches and leaves, and you being in a shadow, it's kind of like what that verse says. He's saying God is like a great covering over me. When I dwell in the secret place alone with Him, it's like I'm covered by His shadow. Now, I do something on a regular basis, a lot of you do. I journal. And what I try to do to make my secret place a regular experience for me is I try to have time alone with God every single day. Now, right now, we're in Central Florida. We're experiencing the same thing some of you all are historically, and right now I'm going to date this video. But, you know, we have voluntary quarantine where we're being encouraged to distance ourselves because we don't want to spread a virus if we had one. And so today was extra great because I got to have a lot of extra time before I had to go to office and do anything. But just reading the Word, reading in the Psalms, maybe reading through the Gospels, or maybe reading through a book of the New Testament, or maybe reading a passage out of the Old Testament, getting into a system where I'm reading and listening to what God would say to me through the Word, and maybe writing down some things, writing down some of those thoughts, writing down maybe a promise, writing down some of those things that God's impressing upon me, and just thinking about them, meditating on them. It's like a secret place. It's a quiet time in that I'm alone and I'm by myself. It's just me and God. It's that time, it's in those times that I learn how to hear the voice of God. Not audibly, but that inner subjective voice of God. And God starts revealing himself to me. And it takes a while. I've been walking with the Lord. I've been a Christ follower for several years. But it's a discipline. But the secret place of the Most High is like a shadow. And then the second thing he says here, you want to defeat fear? He says, say. David said, I'm going to confess with my mouth something. I'm not going to confess, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to catch a virus and die. I'm afraid I'm going to go bankrupt. He's not saying I'm afraid somebody's going to kill me. I'm afraid I'm going to go through a divorce. I'm afraid my son's going to get on drugs and die. No, he says, I'm going to say this. The Lord is my refuge. I can go to him. The Lord is my fortress. He is a protector for me. He is my God. He's my master. He's my owner. All of that is in the word Lord. He bought me and I am his. And it says this, I'm going to trust him. So in that promise is a great, great, great picture of a covering, of a promise, of a fortress. And then he says this, verse 5. He says, you won't have to be afraid. Do not be afraid. You will not be afraid of the terror by night, the arrow that flies by day, or of the pestilence that stalks in darkness, or of the destruction that lays waste at noontime. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 may fall at your right hand, but it's not going to approach you. Now, can I just say, what a promise. What a promise. And I'm seeing my wife walk around in the mirror. Hey, babe. This is our home studio you're experiencing. That's because you can't go to the office, right? So anyway, it's great. So God says you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be fearful. God says, I'm going to be like a covering for you. God says, I'm going to be your fortress. God says, I'm going to be God to you. And he says, and I'm going to protect you. Don't be afraid. I'm going to be around you. Now, let me ask you one last thing as I close this. You see, a lot of people think Christians are saying, oh, I don't have to do any of the protection. You know what? I'm going to wash my hands, just like they're encouraging me to do right now during this COVID-19 crisis. I'm going to give social distancing. You know, they're saying, hey, 6 feet apart from each other. I was in line at the grocery store and they had a marker and then had another marker, 6 feet away. That's great. I'm going to do that. Services, we're going to, this week we're going to have services from home, and I will do a message and people will watch, through video. We're going to do all of that. But listen, you have to put your trust in God. It's his ability to keep me, his child, safe. If I got it, I'm going to trust him to be the one that's going to dry it up and heal me. That's where we have to be. Not full of fear, but full of faith and growing in faith every day. I want to say thank you for watching this. I'm going to talk some more about this the next 2 or 3 days because we're going to be here and I'm going to have lots of time at home. So I'm going to come and thank you for letting me come into your home or your office or your phone. And I appreciate the time. All right, you be blessed. Thank you. Bye.